Everybody, it's Carm again, and Fuzzy once again. Yeah, just after another extended hiatus of earlier this afternoon. Yeah, I just did a video on some VCLT from Trish. Listen to the first half of this so far, and it's quite good. You know, diverse and eclectic as always, as you know, Trish's mixes are. And I do recognize a few of the tunes. I remember hearing them before. One I really like is Sabata by Lost Spelkings. So, yeah, very nice, nice high energy stuff. And yeah, this time around, just kind of continuing the ECM thread from the Bar Phillips video I recently did on Journal Violone 2. And yeah, I've been revisiting some other ones, older ones that a lot of them I picked up back in the 90s. And of course Gary, Cosmic Pickle, his first couple of videos have influenced and inspired me to go back in my own ECM archives, and I have quite a bit I've been going through, and just have about half a dozen or so here. Just been spinning lately, and yeah, I'll get into them here. This one is an early example of the label Stanley Cowell Trio, Illusion Suite. This is from November of 1972. Stanley Cowell on, got fuzzy again. Up here. Stanley Cowell on piano, electric and acoustic. Stanley Clark on bass, electric and acoustic, and Jimmy Hops on drums. The thing that really stands out on this album for me is Stanley Clark's playing. He was really young at the time, maybe 20, 21, and his proficiency on both electric and acoustic is very, very striking on here. Playing arco on the acoustic, bowing the bass, and it's electric. Very funky. It's really a funky album, and much more raw than the early productions of the first few years of ECM. For the most part, were a lot more raw and freer than later years, with with exceptions of course. But yeah, this is a great album, and Stanley Cowell is someone I'm meaning to look into a little further. This is the only thing I have by him in general, but yeah, very nice example of the early label. I think I picked this up, and I think I may have even showed it in a video sometime back. Bound it for next to nothing, mainly because of the condition. It's the cover is pretty beat up and still have some shrink. It's kind of stuck to it, but nevertheless, excellent album. Definitely recommended. If you like trio jazz, that's somewhat traditional but also funky and free at the same time. Now this one Gary showed, and one I had even forgot that I had for a long time until he brought it up. Gary Burton Quartet. Picture this. It's from 1982, January of '82. Yeah, he was pointing out in albums that he felt should have been reissued or re-released on CD. And yeah, I'd never seen this until the time I found it. And this is, I want to say, sometime within the last 10 years, maybe 8 years ago, I picked this up. And I didn't really like it as much as his earlier work, like Dream So Real or Passengers, the early, more guitar-based quartet stuff. This one has, in addition to him on vibraharp and Steve Swallow on bass guitar, who's played with him for many years. There's also Jim Agren on alto saxophone and Mike Hyman on drums. I think that's a saxophonist there. This is Steve Swallow and Gary and the drummer. Yeah, and I think at the time I didn't like it because I love saxophone too, but maybe the combination seemed a little foreign to me because I was so used to his earlier quartet stuff. But no, I'm finally revisiting this lately. It is a pretty nice album, and yeah, Jim Agren actually plays or composes a couple pieces on here on the B-side. There's also a Carla Bley tune, Dream So Real, and Waltz by Chick Corea. So yeah, upon further listening, it is pretty nice. The blending of vibes and saxophone. I know he did another one, I think with the same group. I think it's called Easy as Pie. I don't believe I have that one, but no, this is a nice, nice revisiting. And I always like this cover too. It's probably initially the most appealing thing about it, but yeah, I like the whole thing now. So yeah, quite nice, very pleasant. This one I've had for quite some time, and probably a little atypical of what you associate with the label. First Avenue. This is from 1980, I believe. 1980. This is completely improvised music by a trio of Denny Goodhue on various woodwinds, sax, flute, and bass clarinet, Eric Jensen on cello, and James Knapp on trumpet, flugelhorn, and waterphone. Yeah, it says this music has its origins in dance music rather than concert music. Yeah, and it's completely improvised. Has a kind of a somewhat of a minimalist feel. At times it's repetitive, and other times it's kind of a slow unfurling. The music slowly, the improvisation, they're kind of feeling their way through it. Some of it's almost drone based. It probably has more in common with contemporary classical avant-garde than say free jazz, but it is all improvised and really does kind of go beyond those categories. It has a real nice, just a really nice flow to it, even when it gets a little more disjointed. I mean, they're very much playing together. There are some pieces that have a great deal of echo on them. The phrases will be repeated, and some overdubbing, but no, it is quite a spontaneous sounding album, and a little different, even from that time. But yeah, very much recommended. I'd never heard of it before I saw it, and like I said, I've had it for quite a few years, so yeah, it was another great revisit. And next one's in kind of a similar vein. Larry Karush and Glenn Moore, May 24th, 1976. Yeah, it's the actual title of it, presuming the date of recording. I really like this cover too. Kind of like a long winding road out in a field in the horizon there. Yeah, it's from 76, and it's a combination of Larry Karush on piano and Glenn Moore of organ, of course, on bass and violin. I think Larry's probably better known as a member of Steve Reich's ensemble. I played with him, perhaps still does, but I know played with him for a long time. And it's a combination of compositions by both players, and there's one piece by Benny Wallace. Similar to the previous one, very improvisational. Somewhat, it's challenging listening, the interplay between the two of them. There's one particular piece called Country, which is one of the more melodic ones and a little easier to get into, but the rest is, has as much in common with, again, like modern classical avant-garde as it would with the more experimental, improvised jazz stylings, but yeah, I'd listened to it after quite a while. This is another one I've had for at least a decade. But yeah, a nice example of what both were doing outside of their respective groups that they were better known for. This next one, in my opinion, is a real masterpiece, and again another one I've had for maybe 10 to 15 years, maybe about 12 years, I think. I remember the shop I got this from. Yeah, John Sermon, Karen Krog, and Pierre Favre. Such Winters of Memory. Absolutely beautiful record from 1982. It recorded 82, came out in 83. And yeah, the cover just pretty much says it all here. A lovely cloudscape. There's John and Karen on the back. John playing a variety of woodwinds as well as keyboards. And she plays she sings and plays Oberheim ring modulator and tambora, and Pierre Favre on drums. Just beautiful, evocative, spacey, atmospheric, but also at times funky. There's a tune on here, I think it's My Friend, yeah, Sermon and Krog, and words by Paul Rowlands, where it's just vocal and his bass clarinet playing in a very rhythmic, swinging style. He's very melodic, of course, known for extending the range of the baritone sax, the high register. But he's also a very rhythmic player, and he can swing with the best of them, and you really lay down a nice rhythmic bed for someone else to solo over, as well as himself, you know, overdubbing. Just a gorgeous album. It's really hard to find the words for. I listened to it actually earlier today after a long time of not listening. I don't know why it took me so long to get back to it, but yeah, just gorgeous. A great representation of all the artists here. And her voice is really, she's another one kind of like Julie Tippett's, you know, that quote about she would sound good even singing out of the phone book. It's true. I mean, her voice is so, her phrasing is just, you know, just very distinctive. You know, no one else quite like her or him. Or Pierre Favre, who doesn't play a great deal on the album, but his contributions are very, you know, very notable. So, yeah, just an excellent one if you're a fan of any of them. Sermon's someone else, you know, I definitely want to do a profile on. He's just, you know, an all-time favorite, you know, from ECM and otherwise. Now this next one I got maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and was a real surprise. I didn't even know about it. Metheny Group, live in concert. This appears to be a radio promotion. Yeah, it's for programming only, not for sale. I think it was from a radio station. You can see ECM Polydor. I think it's a white label promo. So yeah, it was a real nice surprise coming across this one I did. It was only about $5 or $6 too, from what I remember. And I don't know if it's in their regular catalog. Yeah, Pat on guitars, Lyle Mays keyboards, Mark Egan bass, Dan Gottlieb on drums. This is recorded. This is on 2 dates in the late summer of 1977, and this band actually. This is actually before they recorded their first official album, which I think was in 1978. So this is actually during the Watercolors, Pat's Watercolors album, which the title track's also on there. It's one of my personal favorites of his solo work. And yeah, just a nice representation of the group when they had just formed, pretty much. I think they had formed this year, this particular lineup. And there's also a piece, Wrong is Right, by Gary Burton and Larry Coryell, which is nice. Great soloing on it. And yes, ever since then I haven't seen this album around, so I would definitely recommend it if you're a fan. It's a great great for the archive. So it's always a pleasant listen. And Pat was the first one who, you know, the first ECM that I actually ever heard, and kind of got me into other areas of jazz as well. You know, beyond the traditional and the ECM. And last but not least, another one that Gary showed, and in my opinion, another masterpiece. Gallery, with again the striking photography there. Yeah, it's Dave Samuels on vibraharp marimba, Michael DePasqua drums percussion, who Gary spoke at great length about in one of his videos. Paul McCandless from Oregon on woodwinds, David Darling, one of my all-time favorites ever on cello, and Ratso Harris on bass, who I wasn't previously familiar with, aside from this album, but also great contributions. Yeah, just a wonderful album. I would call it of chamber improv, if you're gonna put a term on it. It's very much like classical chamber music. Perfect blend of that and improvised music and jazz. I think if you're a classical person who's curious about jazz but doesn't quite know where to dip your toe in, this would be as good as any. I love the pieces. Actually, DePasqua composed a song called A Lost Game. I really like that one. And Egret by Glenn Cronkite. It's from May 1981. Just almost every tune starts off kind of, again, that kind of slow unfurling, and then just gradually builds, and each member comes in a little more and kind of stirs things up a little more, and then gets the energy, you know, raises higher and higher, and then the piece ends. A lot of them just kind of go like that. It almost ends on sort of a high. But yeah, just a excellent, beautiful album. Again, Gary spoke at great length about this. I can't remember if it was either his first or second video, but and spoke of seeing the group and everything, and Deep Pasqua especially, a real distinctive drummer and percussionist who has been in retirement from music for a while now. I think coaxed outside just a couple of times by Eberhard Weber, the bassist and composer, who would be the subject of a whole nother video or even a series of videos. Another great master. But yeah, highly recommended album. Just beautiful, and I would say almost like it typifies ECM in just about every way. The creativity, the flow of ideas, the improvisation, the compositional sense, everything is, it's great ECM. So that'll do it for now. I just wanted to come on and share a few of these. And I'll have quite a few more in the future. I'm just kind of going through these little by little. I mean, I have so many of these over the years. Ever since I first got into ECM, I bought it on vinyl indiscriminately, especially back in the 90s when it was really cheap and plentiful. I mean, I could find it for next to nothing back then, and they were all over, and a little harder to come by now, but if I see something reasonable enough and I don't have it, I'll definitely grab it. So that'll do it for now. So again, I hope you're all well, and thanks for watching, and until next time, peace, love, and joy. Oh, before that, show this real quick. This is what's playing in the background. Played this in Trish's video too. I didn't want to play the ECM because of copyright stuff, and also Trish's mixes. I'm just not quite sure. Figured this would be obscure enough. It's a real nice harp player. I feel like Georgia Kelly. She's along similar lines. So yeah. So until next time, take care, everybody.